This regular council meeting of August 11th, 2026. Home to many First Nations, Inuit, Métis, Anishinaabe, and Cool peoples. This evening, we'll recognize territorial reference to take the of the nation and thank them on behalf of council and friendship. Madam Clerk, I do believe we have a motion for agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of August 11th, 2026 be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Shannon.
Yes, Your Worship.
Second by Councillor Nelson.
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any additions to deletions? Recommendation. Okay, Mr. CEO.
I'd like to recommend we delete item 14.3. It needs a little bit more work, may or may not return.
Okay. Any issues from council? Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll reread the resolution.
Okay.
Be resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of August 11th, 2026 be amended to delete agenda item 14.3 in relation to it requiring more work.
Okay. Any other additions, deletions? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Shannon, second by Councillor Nelson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Any closure of pecuniary interest? Councillor Shannon.
Declare received conflict on 14 or 7.7.
7.7.
Yes. Report 2026 81 water and wastewater capital projects and update. If they pertain to the lawyers, well, declare the conflict.
Okay. So,
Yes, Mayor.
go ahead, member.
For the record, Councillor, is that a direct or an indirect conflict?
They're in direct conflict.
Because of your employment?
Yes. It depends where the conversations go with her and
So that's consent agenda. So I imagine what you'll do then is you'll recuse yourself from voting then? It's consent agenda. It does
Yeah.
get pulled and there's no discussion.
so we should pull it from the consent agenda.
Yeah.
As a matter of procedure, it will be pulled when you table the consent.
Okay.
When you table the items of consent.
Okay, any others?
Yes, there will be some in, I don't know if they're called number 1 or number 2, but one of the closed session. So, do I declare it at that time, Madam Clerk?
We'll do that when we adopt the agenda closed.
If I can, Mr. Mayor, and we will have to declare when we come out of closed
Okay.
open session.
Anything else? Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Shannon, second, simply running in their declaration of clear interest, and we'll go right into the adoption minutes, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, be it resolved that the draft minutes of the regular council meeting held on July 14th, 2026 be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Costa,
Yes, Worship.
second by Councillor Reimer.
Yes, Worship.
Thank you. Any errors, omissions, deletions? Favor? Carried. Thank you very much. All right, with that, we'll move to the consent agenda and then put post 7.7.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Resolution for the consent,
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
of course.
Be resolved that the consent agenda items listed on the August 11th, 2026 council agenda, apart from item 7.7, be received and that the motions contained therein be approved and duly recorded as presented.
Moved by Councillor Castellino,
Yes, Your Worship.
second by Councillor Burnett.
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to pull 7.8. It's for brief discussion.
Sorry if I missed the cue. You didn't. You're right on cue. Since I hesitate, that's your cue. Okay, Madam Clerk.
So, Mr. Mayor, the motion has been amended.
Before going further,
Yes.
anyone else have anything you want to pull from the consent agenda? Okay,
The motion's been amended to reflect 7.7 and 7.8 not being part of the consent agenda.
okay. And it was moved by Councillor Decidido, second by Councillor Burnett. Favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, start with 7.7. Is that something you want to dialogue on, or do you want us to vote on separately?
It's because I need to declare conflict on this item, and if it was in the consent agenda, we will vote on the whole thing, so not necessarily.
Okay, so is there anybody who wants to review 7.7?
So if there's no discussion, I'll declare.
Yeah.
And we'll vote, but I don't know if it's necessary. Maybe the room. Oh, sorry. We're receiving, aren't we?
There would be a vote on this.
Which was-
Yes.
Okay. All right, so if you're going to be in the chambers, we can review it. Okay, so a resolution for 7.7 on there.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So the resolution will read as followed. Be it resolved that the council received report 2026-81 regarding the water and wastewater capital projects semi-annual update for the period ending June 30th, 2026 as information.
Okay, moved by Councilor Nelson,
Yes, Rich.
second by Councilor Kowski.
Yes, Your Worship.
All in favor? Carried, thank you very much.
I'll have you second motion, please.
Yes, thank you. And with 7.8 that you pulled, call Councilor Shannon Newman, please. Thank you. Okay, 7.8, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll read the resolution.
Yeah.
Be it resolved that council received report 2026-86 regarding the Infrastructure Services Department's semi-annual capital capital projects update for information.
Moved by Councilor Reimer, seconded by Councilor Net. Yes, thank you. Councilor Reimer?
Yes, no, first of all, I really wanted to thank Mr. Gomez and Mr. Yang, our CEO, for this excellent report. An awful lot of work went into it, and very good to receive. Just two quick questions, just minor clarification. Item 7 and item 8. Item 7 is the rural gravel lifts, and I'm just wondering if any gravel has been placed yet, and then number 8, if we will be doing any sidewalks. I know that the budget amounts were lower than previous. Just a quick update. That's all.
For you, Mr. Mayor, for the rural gravel lifts, we have asked for if we are sticking to this budget that has been allocated to that. I have not yet received confirmation that we are. Once we do, we will proceed with whatever the recommendation for the budget is for this year. For the sidewalks program, since the budget was cut to $37,500 and we already have a contractor in place, we asked if this work would be financially viable to the contractor depending on the scope of work that has been dedicated for this work. We have not yet received information from them back.
Thank you. Thank you. Kim? Anyone else? Okay, so that's moved by Councilor Reimer, second by Councilor Burnett. All in favor? Carried, thank you very much. All right, Madam Clerk, I think we're going to skip right down into the staff reports, so 14.1.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that council received report 2026-67 as information, and that council approve the updated procurement policy reflecting changes required to align with the Buy Ontario Directive and support local businesses and employers where feasible, and that the updated procurement policy be brought forward for formal adoption by bylaw at a subsequent regular council meeting.
Moved by Councilor Kowski,
Yes, Your Worship.
second by Councilor Despito.
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. So you can take away from the department.
Just to summarize that the council's had a strategic goal for some time now, and we've been in discussions about how we can facilitate a scoring matrix or allocating points for local businesses, local bidders, local being defined broadly in the way that council sees fit to a large extent. And then when the provincial Ford government rolled out the Buy Ontario Directive, that legislation and regulation provides the legal basis for what council had already considered is some way to provide some points for locals, just like the province of Ontario is saying thou shalt provide points for Ontario-based businesses and exclude other businesses outside of Ontario, but also respecting the trade agreements that Ontario and Canada have. So that is, we use the directive. I tried to explain that in the report and in the policy. So we're using that opportunity that Mr. Ford has given us to be able to use that for our own local and regional economic impact and benefit on how the council uses their public dollars when they're awarding contracts. So we did hear late, but better late than never from our legal team that did say a couple of small changes, but they're not significant for the next draft comes for the final. But basically, we're on the right path, and if that's if council wishes to approve it as is, a couple small changes will come for the next version when it gets adopted, but they're not significant changes, and it's basically a good news story. And I should also note that this Buy Ontario directive is in place. It's the law for every Ontario municipality, and we are using it to be fairly early adopters. It's only been in place since April, May. And that will require a little bit of learning processes when it comes to procurements, because there are thresholds built in Ontario that requires town to sort of jump through some hoops and provide some opportunities in our RFPs and our procurement documents. That's going to be a bit of a learning curve, but all Ontario municipalities will be going through that right now anyways. So if we can partner with others and increase our comfort with these new processes, including the ones that we're going to use to our own benefit for the local impact. And I used concepts that are in the Buy Ontario directive in the policy, benefit local knowledge, investments locally, all that is spelled out in the policy. Able to adopt it by bylaw at the next meeting, subject to council's questions. In council?
Are you looking, sorry, Your Worship, are you looking for comments now, or you should?
Now's your chance.
I mean, I agree with the Buy Ontario Act. A lot of it is already prepared for us. Just a couple of comments. In the draft procurement policy, so there's 3 sections of documents with this. First of all, 7.2.3 is blank. So there's probably just a typo error there. And then 7.2.4, oh gosh, and I don't have that particular document open, so give me a second. 7.2.4, my note is, so this is the, I believe it's the when a bid is less within 10% more than what council had approved in the budget. While I'm waiting for it to come up here. And so just my question is, like, on $100,000 or some significant amount, that's $5,000. So I assume that it doesn't have to be approved by council. Like, I'm trying to be clear on that. It says that staff can go ahead and start the procurement process if it's within 10% or negotiate. But 10%, depending on the amount, sometimes could be a lot of money. And then I'm just wondering how council finds out, is it in the report? How do we find out and where is that money going to come from? That was just a question that I had. And then the other comment.
Let's go with it.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry. I guess it will depend on the threshold. If it's under, I believe, $50,000, 10%. If it's under 50,000, council may unlikely ever find out, or find out in some operational report after the fact. If it's above 50,000 and there's a scoring matrix, an RFP, then the recommendation to award will come to council. And then if we have a 10% budgetary problem, the board would say we're going to take the money from the reserve, or this project is underspent. We're going to go use those funds here, something like that.
I'll add to that as well, to some clarity around the 10% is not just money oriented, it's a value in the matrix. So there's a recognition for the investments that locals are making in substance. So locals who invest in recreational events, so invest in different activities within the municipality, locals who are hiring people and people who are living in Cochrane and helping generate the local economy. There's a recognition that there's a certain value there that's associated.
But with all due respect, Worship, that's not what this 10% is. It's if the bid comes in or the price comes in at 10% more than what was approved in the budget. That staff, I'm just sorry, it takes forever to come up here compared to, but
so there's a matrix that built on that, and the value we use across the board, not just the value on the price. The other thing is, like the buy local obviously is an important initiative, not just from a provincial standpoint, but from the local standpoint to ensure that we are bringing value for the locals. As local businesses start to die off and we don't have municipality to hire other businesses quicker to participate in that process.
I understand. Again, it says change work orders, contract extensions, or changes to purchase price up to 10% of the previous council approved contract or purchase price. Up to 50,000. Sorry, I missed that part. So it's still $2,500 that has to be found in the budget somewhere.
Final point on that though is it's a good point you bring up. So it's one we should wrestle with a little bit. How will council find out? Council doesn't find out because one of the premises of a fair, balanced, and impartial process is removal of political interference. So it's not for council to find out. For us to have criteria in place and to have the impartial operation into the decisions around this. This will actually, we think, help get away from a lot of the council involvement in terms of trying to ensure locals are involved because we now do have criteria, like I said, to recognize the value that locals are providing into the service. That can now be just straightforward criteria that the operations is.
I agree, Your Worship, but this is when the contract's already been awarded and there's change orders and stuff. Right? Perhaps
Not
I could.
particular point, but your original point about was.
No, this was always about 7.2.4.
Okay, minus fee. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then 7.5, just want to say I agree. The 7.5 could probably go. Both the clerk and the CEO had made those comments. And then there's just in 11.1, it talks about the town account, the town cards. I'm assuming we're talking about credit cards because that's what I assume by reading it, but probably we should put in there credit cards. Just my thoughts. And then I know there will be some 11.2. I'm wondering in here, I saw that some sole source or whatever, but should we not set up a vendor of record process where you have a list of, to make it quicker to have them pre-qualify with the WSIB and all of these other, perhaps on each vendors that we use more regularly, should we have in there that we could set up a vendor of record process just to make it easier and quicker if all of the pre-qualifications are already done? I don't know, just a recommendation.
We do have that, don't we?
Well, we have sorry, I'll defer.
I don't know that we do. I haven't come across that concept.
There's a small
6-7 months ago.
Right. So, through Mr. Mayor, when we put the RFP out as part of the process, they're supposed to submit all these documents to us so that we check that they're WSIB, and as a part of the RFP, they also provide us with the COIs, which has the dates in it. So at the time of award, we do check that that's applicable. We have never, from my knowledge, we have never pre-qualified people when it comes to operations or capital projects. So I have not been involved with pre-qualifications, but when it comes to awarding projects, we do at the time of award check with their WSIB status, and it's requested from them as a part of their proposal when they submit their bids.
So there might be merit to this point the council is bringing up, which is a vendor record process. I do recall that in the past, but a vendor record process to help you speed up the process.
Yeah, just to add your point, at the time of payments for the invoices, we do go back and check if their status is valid for all of these WSIBs and COPs. So that's what we do internally, but there's no separate process like you're mentioning.
Right. Just something for consideration if it's not in the policy now in the future, because there are some contractors that we use often and that bid often, and you don't even have to worry about that piece if you do. Anyway, okay, that was my thought on that. And then just to comment on 11.3.
Sorry, Councillor, on that point.
Yeah,
Okay.
on pre-qualification, you gotta watch, like for WSIB and such like that. Even if you're pre-qualified, if there's a long term since he's done the last contract, it could be in default of WSIB. That's why, like Mr. Gomez says, at the point of the RSP or the delivery payment, they check anyway to make sure. Otherwise, every few months it could change, or they could be in default or whatever. So this pre-qualification works, but there's still a background check that has to be done.
I agree, but I'm thinking of, supplies that we order regularly, chemicals, different things like that, salt and gravel that, you can still check when the time comes, but it'll help you to pre-qualify them and evaluate quicker and then get that information. Just an option. 11.3, 1, 2, and 3. From my quick look, the amounts don't align, nor does the wording to the best efforts to secure or whatever, but I think when we go through the chart, we'll probably make changes there anyways, and just to make sure that they align, because right now I don't think they do. And then 12. What, at 12.0, why aren't we using Jagger, Bizentender, or bidding? Why are we only relying on, one of those standard RFP platforms that most municipalities use? It refers to posting on a website. It doesn't refer to all the other. There should be a notation of, standard online RFP software or options.
I think look into that because I'm pretty sure that language is somewhere else. There's so many policies we've been reviewing right now, but I'm pretty sure we can. It's going to be.
Then 12.3.1, it's the fourth paragraph where it says mayor and clerk to execute the agreement. Should we, I know right now there's no deputy mayor, but it could be a designate if the mayor was away, unavailable, and this was the time crunch. Should there not be or a designate or some sort of comment? So if the mayor is off sick or whatever if there is no designate at the time and the mayor is not available, we have a deputy clerk. I don't know if that also applies to the deputy clerk, but it specifically says the mayor and the clerk to execute the agreements. If there was a time constraint or some catastrophic thing that would happen, or illness or whatever, because right now the procedural bylaw says that the mayor will appoint a chair for meetings, but it doesn't refer to an alternate or a designated in the mayor's absence.
I don't know that is. We'd have to look into that offline. If you could see if it's.
I'm not sure either, just something I noticed.
I can. So can I, Mr. Mayor? Of course. So Councillor, you're talking about section 12.3?
Yes.
So 12.3I, the award of contract shall be made in writing to the successful proponent by way of agreement, bylaw, resolution, or purchase order. So if it's by bylaw in the preamble, you can always change it from mayor to deputy mayor, clerk to deputy clerk, or it could be the manager of infrastructure, could be the CAO. So you have that wiggle room in the bylaw itself. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nothing that's earth-shattering.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, then, Madam Clerk, resolution?
Yes, Mr. Lee.
Oh, sorry, Your Worship.
Yeah.
There's 3 documents there, but the thresholds has some question marks in there as well, and sorry, if we're moving right on to the bylaw, then the motion, then 14.1 thresholds, 14.1 in the procurement and approval thresholds. So it says 50,000 for, it's confusing when you read it. It'll take a second, but single approval, It looks different now than when I opened up. Sorry, procurement and thresholds, I may have mislabeled that. Anyway, the section that has the table, which I can't seem to find real quickly right now, the executive approval 50 to 79,999 or greater than 50. Like there's questions.
That was a version control issue. It is 50. It's capped at 50.
Okay.
Nobody has over $50,000, so we can ignore the 75.
Thank you, because that's what was in the document was 50, but I thought I didn't leave there. And oh yes, dual. Then there's like dual approved. 15 to 25, best effort to secure. There's a few comments about best effort to secure.
Where are you?
It's still in 14 when it's on sorry, where is it? Best efforts to secure multiple written. Shouldn't we say we need at least 1 or we need at least 2 or we need at least 3? To me, best effort to secure 2. If we just say reasonable effort to secure multiple, how many is multiple? It's 2. I find it vague, So it's written in there in several under the heading of this is here. Process. formal, for example, 50 to 50,000 and above, best effort to secure multiple written quotations with a formal public process. If we're not narrowing it down, so best effort to procure multiple, is that two? Is that,
Okay, well, the key takeaway there is a formal public process. So, we're obviously trying for hundreds of bids, but so it's just the public process, more than one. And when you see it in lower thresholds, that just means do what you can to get rid of them. Sometimes it's a verbal.
So-
small numbers, unfinished.
Thank you. So the 0 to 5 and 5 to 15, like the 0 to 5 says best effort to, sorry. Okay, the comment that I had for the verbal or written, better posting first to be sought and documents preserved. So we don't need even one written quote. They're all verbal for 0 to 5,000. And then the 5,000 to 15 minute, 2 competitive written quotes. We need 2 if it's between 5 and 10. And it doesn't say best effort to secure. So the first one we get a quote if it's, within $5,000, or if it's acceptable, we don't look for a second one. I mean, it's all relevant.
Best efforts would be, isn't it?
It doesn't say best efforts. It says written or verbal quotations are acceptable, competitive quotes are encouraged to be sought, and documentation preserved for future reference. It doesn't say like a best effort to secure, I mean, if you're running out for a handful of bolts, that's different, but I don't know. I've seen stuff like this where it's a little bit more specific, but we don't want to tie the hands of the staff. I understand that.
Well, it says, so there's a couple of things here, but
It says competitive, so when you're saying to them you want competitive, to me, it's implicating that you want to get your best pricing.
yeah. So the thing I wanted to just remind everybody here is that it's very important that the procurement policy is a very important policy in the municipality. But we do have a policy committee the council has nominated, who has worked and created with the drafts that are here. And my suggestion would be, rather than rehearse every aspect that's inside the policy that the committee has already rehearsed and gone through, we highlight some of the very key important aspects and try to get some clarity for understanding. And if we start with the understanding, we can go from there. And that would discourage us from getting too far into the weeds and drafting policy on the fly here at the council table. There's a lot of different preferences, a lot of different styles and how people want to do things. The way this is drafted is to provide the operation with the room to make a management decision and not to try to over-prescribe everything. Because if we identify, for example, it'd be nice to say you're going to get 3 quotes, but if they can't get 3 quotes, what do we do then? They have to come back to council. They have to stop the process. They have to try to figure out, how to manage it. Better to give them the latitude and put the faith in our operation to do what's best for the municipality. And then if they don't do what's best for the municipality, that's where we as a governance body, we can address that as a follow-up afterwards. So the policy that's here right now has a particular style that's giving them the latitude to make a decision, giving them the latitude to be flexible, be nimble with the circumstances. And what we should be determining here is, are we comfortable with the amount of criteria that's here? And if we're not, that's fine. But if we are, then we should probably continue to move through the process itself. So I'm not discouraging you from asking questions. It's fair. Just I want to remind us that we don't want to do the work that the policy committee has already done here with council. In that kind of minutiae.
I understand what you're saying. We don't want to handcuff staff. At the same time, we want to avoid council barraging the questions, afterwards. Well, how many, did you get? And what were they? And, so if there's more clarity here, then your staff doesn't have to answer as many questions afterwards. That's my thought.
It's a fair point. Well, I think it's a fair point. You've asked the question. Does anybody else feel the same way?
Yeah, I do. When it comes to, procurement, we have to make sure that we have good guides in place in order to be able to be successful, but also not overwhelming our staff. But a verbal over a phone, hey, it was $3,000, and then all of a sudden it changes to $4,500 because it's an extra. It just makes it difficult. I think verbal is definitely. I forgot I said that. It just makes no sense to me. I'm not saying we have to rewrite the whole thing. But we definitely have to revisit some of them. So I think that it would be nice if we could, go back and look at I'm working this draft to come back if it's not, but
Okay, I'm just trying to follow both here. So where's the verbal comment?
so it's under the single approval only.
What
If you go to the table,
item number?
so it's in the table.
I thought it was in the
So
last.
procurement and approval thresholds. If you click on that, it'll bring you up. And that table will come up.
Separate files. Well, we don't.
So if you go look at that first single approval only, 0 to 5,000. Basically, anybody can split that in two if they wanted to, and then come back for extras with another 5,000. So there's really no tight guidelines.
So the policy used to state that you couldn't staff it. Still say that you can't split them. I think it does.
It does, yeah.
So that shouldn't be an issue. But I think what the items that came up at the committee level from the operation was, this is literally where most of the activities taking place. A lot of small bids, not bids, but so much small jobs and activities. And to have a formal process of having to secure 3 or 4 bids and all these small activities can be a little bit difficult. So on the verbal side, your point is not comfortable with the verbal, even at this level. Councilor Shedon, you mean the same way? I understand that.
With the verbal, and then when you go to the dual approval required, and as Councilor Desvito mentioned, 2 competitive bids are written or more. It's actually scratched out, and it's actually best efforts to secure multiple written quotations with a formal public process. So you're actually saying best efforts. You're not actually saying 2 competitive bids.
But to secure multiple quotation, you could end up with 10 bids.
Correct.
So that's the whole point. But again, this is a conceptual thing we're talking about, which is we could prescribe to the teeth and have a 9-inch thick policy that we're always going to find out that we haven't covered every base, or we can provide the latitude, the white lines for the operation working. And this is what the committee has been for so far. So again, I'm just going around the table now trying to get a sense from council. Anyone else have the same issue?
I have a different issue.
Well, let's stick with hang on that for a second.
Well, it's part of this.
Okay, go ahead.
If it's like 5,000 and under, I mean, the manager, whatever department was, and he is procuring something that he's done it multiple times, it's $5,000. If the person that's providing it isn't honest or isn't, the manager knows if he's dealt with this particular person before and they say it's going to be $3,500. There's a, basically 100% chance that the guy wants to have business again, he's going to do what he says. Like it's under $5,000. You can't have a written, you want something for $500 and you got to have a written thing and go through all this process. $5,000 is not a big deal. There's honesty among the vendors and the departments. They know who to deal with, and if they've done these dealings with the individuals before, I don't see a problem.
Okay. So just for your council, Shannon, I just want to see if there's any other comments at the table. I want to remind everybody that we have a very robust agenda this evening. We just want to make sure that we're focusing on the high level governance issues that we should be addressing. So anybody else have the same issue that the 2 councillors have brought up with respect to identifying specific number of bidders?
Just a quick comment. This policy, you have to remember, is nothing is in isolation. We do have the, accountability, transparency. We have ethics. We have a whole bunch of other internal controls. There's best practices. Somebody gives you a quote over the phone, you're going to make a note, follow up with the email, and life goes on, right?
So ultimately, from my standpoint, the accountability comes through the CAO. If we have any issues as governance body, we should ask the CAO, how that unfolded, and can you give us some clarity on why that unfolded that way, and either he's going to have the answers or he's not. And that's where we address it at the governance level. So I don't see any other support for that specific item. So do you have another point that, well, I'll go to Councilor Shannon, I'm going to you. Do you have another point that you want to make?
During this discussion, I realized that there is a PO clause that pretty much everything needs a PO when it's purchased. So that would resolve the issue. If you're going with PO and the prices change, well then service purchasing prices increase. So I just wanted to do that. Sorry.
Councilman?
That was actually my, is the PO process, but the biggest thing, and Councilor Reimer, what you've mentioned as well on the on the verbal side, you take note. Sometimes we forget, we get sidetracked. Being a department head, somebody walks in, you forget to send out that email. And then a month down the road, you know, you've already approved it, then go through the process maybe, and then all of a sudden you get that bill. And yeah. So it was more on the verbal side because it's just best practice on the verbal.
The discussion, so we resolved that there is council support for how it's working right now. Did you have another point, Councillor Shannon? Anyone else? Okay, let's move by Councillor Akowski, second by Councillor Desavito. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. 14.2, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, be it resolved that council received report 2026-68 as information, and that council proceed with option 1 as stated in report 2026-68, which is to direct staff to implement a phased burdock management strategy, including public education and awareness, an inventory and assessment of burdock infestations on municipal property, and targeted removal efforts in priority public areas, including the boardwalk, Lake Commando, parks, and other high-use locations, and that staff report back to council following the initial implementation period on the effectiveness of the burdock management strategy and provide recommendations on whether to pursue the designation of burdock as a local noxious weed under the Ontario Weed Control Act.
Okay, moved by Councillor Nelson.
Information.
Second by Councillor Shannon. Thank you. Any department? Who's the department in this?
Your worship, so let me point out, I do not have green thumb. So I am relying.
Should be good for getting rid of the burdock.
Yeah, good. So this stems from a letter sent by the beautification committee. So I'm relying on their expertise, those who know about this sort of thing. As we all know, burdock is sort of taking over in a lot of our public spaces, especially around the lake, around the boardwalk. So it's just to create a management strategy in order to try to tackle that as best as we can. A lot of it does come down to education, because a lot of people even have it in their own backyard. Some don't even know what it is. It actually looks a lot like rhubarb at first, so people actually mistake it for that. So it's about public awareness to begin with, also identifying the locations where we can try to eradicate it as much as possible. We do have the challenges about the hill around the lake and those sort of things for safety reasons. But it's to get the ball rolling to try to implement something in order to help eradicate it as best as possible.
Great initiative from my standpoint, but for layman's terms, we're talking about birds.
Yeah, it's the plant that creates the birds.
Birds, which we don't know that. Okay, any council? Sorry, Councilor Nelson.
Thank you. Through your worship, I believe like the education part needs to be put out there. Some pictures of the plan, putting it out, letting people know that's there. Now, is it something that they can touch, or is it something you want them to report that it's there?
So if it's on your own private property, we would try to educate you how to remove it. It's just chopping it down doesn't really do anything. It just goes back even worse. You sort of have to dig down and get to the roots of it. Coincidentally, the manager of the Polar Bear Habitat just mentioned me saying that she's becoming an expert in this and leading at the Polar Bear Habitat. So maybe I'll defer to her to actually take charge of this program and help with it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, that was moved by Councillor Nelson, second by Councillor Shannon O'Neill. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. 14.5 or 14.4.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that council received report 2026-79 from the Manager of Infrastructure Services regarding the RFP 2026-17 for the supply and installation of grinder pumps for VTP pumping station, and that the follow-up financial results of the RFP 2026-17 be considered in closed session with any resulting decision to be ratified by resolution in open session.
Moved by Councillor Desavito.
Yes, Your
Second by
Worship.
Councillor Ryder. Thank you very much. Any data take away from the department?
Sorry, Your Worship, I should declare a conflict on this, but I wrote my notes in the closed.
Pardon me?
I'm just going to declare a conflict. This is 14.4 grinder pumps, right?
Yeah.
So I have to declare a conflict on that. But
Okay.
I considered it for the closed part where we're discussing it, but I shouldn't be voting. I guess I can
Okay.
I just wanted to declare.
Have the conflict forms been provided?
I have them ready to go, already have filled in.
Okay. All right, so just as a best practice in council, we want to try to get in the habit of bringing these forms ahead of time to the clerk. But you're going to declare at this point?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And the clerk will receive by email. I already have them filled out.
Perfect, thank you.
If I can, Mr. Mayor, sorry, Councillor, before you leave, is it direct or indirect?
Indirect.
And the reason for the declaration?
My employer provides these services.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, pardon.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, this is in regards to the VTP pumping station where we are thinking of replacing the old pumps with new grinder pumps. This RFP allows us to award that project, and that was already approved in the water and wastewater budget for 2026.
This is already approved in the budget.
It is already approved in the budget
Why is it here?
to award.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so what's the open session discussion we're going to have?
The open session is just intended to provide information of what this project is with results to be considered in closed
Okay,
session.
so for the public record, the details of this will be discussed in closed because we've adopted a policy for municipality to maintain the financial records of what the budgets are allocated to these items in order not to allow contractors to spike their bids and so on. So it's better control for the council. When we're closed, we'll have that discussion. And when we do award, we will come out there at some point and we'll identify to the public what the actual number is worth. Okay. And then that was moved by moved by Councilor Decidido, second by Councilor Reimer. To receive and consider what's in closed. In favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, 14.5. Ms. Clerk.
One moment, Mr.
One
Mayor.
moment, yeah.
Can I read 14.5, Mr. Mayor?
Of course.
Be resolved that council receive report 2026-82 as information, and that council approve option 1 as per report 2026-82, which is to direct staff to develop a comprehensive business licensing framework for short-term rental accommodations operating within the town of Cochrane, and that staff prepare and present to council a proposed short-term rental business licensing bylaw for consideration, and that the proposed licensing framework require applicants to demonstrate compliance with the town's municipal accommodation tax bylaw as a condition of obtaining and maintaining a business license. And further, that staff report back to council with recommendations respecting licensing requirements, application and administrative procedures, enforcement mechanisms, applicable fees, and implementation options. And finally, that staff prepare and present any amendments necessary to the town's municipal accommodation tax bylaw to strengthen compliance, administrations, and enforcement in support of the proposed licensing framework.
Okay, moved by Councilor Nelson, second by Councilor Decidido.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. And take away from the department.
Through your worship. So as you all know, we do collect a municipal accommodation tax. We've been doing that since 2019. Currently it stands at 4%. So it's people who stay in short-term accommodation rentals are to pay that tax. We collect the tax and 50% of it goes to the Cochrane Tourism Association in order to assist with tourism initiatives. And the other 50% stays with the municipality to help with the polar habitat. With that being said, since 2019, obviously short-term rental accommodation, the framework has changed a lot with the Airbnbs, the Verbos, and those sort of short-term type businesses have started to develop across Ontario and Cochrane as well. So it's to make sure that as it stands now, especially when it comes to those types of short-term rentals, we're unaware who's actually operating one or not, and whether or not they're to apply this MAT tax or not, plus other regulation. So this is to propose doing a licensing requirement for those so that we know who's actually operating, so that we can first educate them to let them know that they are to be applying this MAT tax and the process involved with that, making sure they're meeting other regulations as well, and also to keep an inventory of those that are operating. And it allows us to also look at, if we know who's operating, to look at enforcement measures if needed. And like I said, a large part of it is also education. A lot of people may not be aware to apply this MAT tax to their short-term rentals. So this is where it all stems, so that we can actually be able to put some teeth towards the MAT tax bylaw.
Council? Seeing none, move back to Councilor Hammer. You had your other.
It's okay.
Councilor Hammer, go ahead.
I come from a long line of people that when someone knocks at your door, you say, "Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you." You want to slam the door. So I'm very careful when we start talking about licensing, when we start to put any kind of start to put some damper on free enterprise, on people wanting to create small businesses. We all know how incredibly challenging life today is, with all the increases in prices of everything. My biggest concern is this demonstrate compliance with the town's municipal accommodation tax bylaw as a condition. So I think I'd like to know exactly how would you demonstrate compliance? Because if you're collecting this tax based on, in effect, the only thing I can think of is you would be disclosing your total sales to the town. So we'd have to look at, first of all, how would we protect the privacy, the confidentiality, the competitive aspect of what this business or that business is doing. So that's something that would, that raises a big concern. And the other thing is
Let's get an answer to that question. Okay, so you want to address that?
So how it works is every 3 months, through your worship, every 3 months you have to remit the what would be the VAT tax that you've collected based on your occupancy levels. Now there are some exceptions to that rule. So it's not just to find out actually how much revenue they're making. I mean, hotels and motels, the larger enterprises are doing this as well. There are some exceptions to the rule. If you're renting over 30 days, it doesn't qualify for the VAT tax, and so those sort of things. So it wouldn't be an exact number to know how much actually revenue they're generating based on what the MAT tax they're remitting, because there could be some exceptions where they didn't have to charge the MAT tax due to certain circumstances.
Okay, that's still through your worship. How would you then enforce that if you let's say you want it to be difficult? How would, let me rephrase that. If I, as one of these business operators, I give you a report, would you just take that at face value, or what type of other enforcement or audit or like I'm curious as to what we as a municipality can actually do with teeth. Yeah, what are the teeth? And also, and before you answer that, the other thing is every time you want to, create an outcome, there's always the carrot also. Like what benefit would it be to me as a small business operator to register, to get this, to get this business license and all that versus not doing that in this. It used to be you had a business registry and that's where people went, but now it's kind of, get yourself a good website and the whole world knows, right?
So Your Worship, to answer one of the questions, so as I mentioned, the revenue we generate from the VAT tax, 50% goes to Cochrane Tourism. So for example, what they do is the point of their association is to actually get more heads and beds. So actually to increase the revenue for all these facilities more than anything else. We spend tens of thousands of dollars on promoting Cochrane, where we do booklets, we advertise on the 41 big screens that you see. We're looking at hiring an individual to be at the Board of Trade. So all of those things, that's where that MAT, or a large portion of that MAT tax is going to actually increase the revenues for all these operators. So there is the benefit of that. And I do apologize. Your first question, the first part of that question.
Just the just the enforcement and the auditing aspect. That's
So the team, so you're right, it's a system at this point in time. Technically, I believe the original bylaw says that we could look at their books if they haven't filed. But we do trust that what they're remitting is what they're supposed to be remitting. We're not in the business of auditing people's books at this point in time. It's just to make sure that people are remitting and not remitting at all. And that's
My understanding is the same with hotels.
Yeah.
So what we're doing here is just leveling the playing.
exactly.
Hotels are asking the right question, which is, why am I competing with somebody who doesn't have the same competing?
My final question is, the option 2 is a voluntary registration program. Establish a voluntary registration program encouraging short-term rental operators. Is there, would you anticipate the same level of buy-in, of compliance, so to speak, if we went with option 2 versus actually having a whole licensing? Just wondering if the time and effort that would go into developing a complete licensing regime, if the cost would outweigh the benefit that we would get if we just had a voluntary. That's all I have.
Your worship, that's what it is right now, right? Because part of the MAT tax bylaw is that they are to do it automatically. They're already governed by the MAT tax bylaw at the beginning. It's not changing the MAT tax bylaw. Any short-term rental, whether it's an Airbnb, a hotel, or motel, are to remit this as it is. So it is sort of what we already are doing, but now it's just to bring in an extra step to make sure that everyone that is operating like that is operating, as his worship said, to an even playing field.
So your point, I think, on small government versus big government resonates completely. This is just an item that has probably been left unmanaged too long because you've got an unfair competitive situation that exists. So if we did it for one, we'd have to do it for the other. I'm not sure we want to do it with the other MAT tax business because it's a revenue being generated actually right back into tourism. So that's a good point you bring up. I just think we've got to recognize we've got to level the playing field. It's the agribusiness. Councillor Shelby and Councillor.
So through you, just to address one of the comments that Councillor made at the beginning in terms of competitive advantage, you can see what they charge per night by going on any of those sites anyway, so that doesn't impact them that way. I think it's also important in terms of, like you said, that they're adhering to all the regulations. Is the place that they're renting, is it like legal, the way that things are set up? Are there proper exits? Is there, it just gives an opportunity to ensure that if they're operating, they're renting all space, that it's the space falls under the
bylaws are respected, the fire safety is there, the lives and health of others that are using the place. So that's all part of the regulation.
I was going to bring up the same thing, that it's important that we know that these establishments are being run safely and are adhering to fire codes and all the other bylaws.
So currently the town of Cochrane doesn't enforce business licenses. We did up until about 2012, 2013 and got out of it to again have smaller government and allow the operation a little bit more latitude for the most part that we have. How normal or abnormal is that institution?
Through your worship, most larger municipalities do have business licenses. That's pretty common practice. Small municipalities, some of them have gotten out of it. Some are looking back into it. I have spoken to a couple other municipalities. Now, this is not a blanket business license for all businesses. And the only reason it's particularly to this situation is because there's an extenuating circumstance where they're to be providing the MAT tax. So other businesses, a business on 6th Avenue right now, technically, there's no other extenuating circumstances per se that they need to do to operate that business, like providing an additional tax.
Okay.
Now, the one thing that it does provide, if we were, let's say, to look at doing a blanket business license in the future, it does provide us an inventory. Just to give you an example, Councillor Rakosny, I believe you have the business guides. I saw you with the business guide earlier today. So what happens is that's done through the Northern Chamber of Commerce, the Board of Trade. I get I get it in and they're like, can you update this, you know, on the businesses that we have in the community and those types of things. It's the best guess that I have, whether or not those businesses still exist or all the new businesses that might exist, because I don't know. Because at this point in time, if you don't have a business license, I know that a business is opening up unless if it's required there has to be a building permit because they have to renovate and build. Of course, I know that there's that happening. But generally speaking, if a business opens up on 6th Avenue, I only know based on like everybody else does, whether or not it's on Facebook or they're opening up a business or I happen to notice it, right? So maybe down the line, I'm not saying, you know, we do that, but, you know, there are some merits for the business licensing so that we have a record of what is still operating, what isn't operating, those types of things.
Okay. There aren't any other questions on this item? It's moved by Councillor Nelson, second by Councillor Decidido. David. Carried. Thank you very much. 13-6, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Be resolved that council receive report 2026-85 as information, and that council approves option 1 as per report 2026-85 and adopt the 2025 asset management plan for the town of Cochrane, prepared in accordance with Ontario Regulation 588-17 under the Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act 2015, and that a bylaw be presented for final ratification at a subsequent meeting.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Châtellamieux, second by Councillor Pastor.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. Any data takeaway from the party?
So you, Mr. Mayor, this asset management plan 2025, this is intended to report to council on our core and non-core assets. Currently, we have $467.4 million of assets. It reports to core and non-core assets. And overall, the average conditions of all our assets is fair. The document is a living document and it needs to be updated every year. This provides council with the guidelines and framework to determine the strategic policies as well as level of services and long-term financial planning as well.
So this is a critical document. It's been lagging for a number of years now, and I just want to express appreciation to the department and the CEO for juggling this between the other items that the operation is managing, because it is very critical. And we will not secure funding from the government, the hospital, the asset management plan is, and it provides us the focus that we need with respect to allocating capital dollars and so on. It's lag. It shouldn't have lag, but the operation here has found a way to get it in a point where it's completed now and well, not by about to adopt that, which I just commend with very nice. Anyone else in terms of comments from council? That's gentlemen.
Just great work. It's very detailed. Smart thinking.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Châtellamieux, second by Councillor Nelson. First, Councillor Kosky, sorry, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. 14-7, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that council receive report 2026-89 from the Manager of Infrastructure Services regarding the RFP 2026-22 for the Cochrane Airport Runway Pavement Rehabilitation Project, and that the follow-up financial results of the RFP 2026-22 be considered in closed session with any resulting decision to be ratified by resolution in open session.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Kosky.
Yes.
Second by Councillor Manette.
Yes.
You can take away from the department.
For you, Mr. Mayor, the open session report is intended to provide information on what this project is, which is rehabilitating a part of the runway for the airport. We received 2 compliant bids, and the financial results are considered in close with decisions to be made.
Okay. Councillor Johnson. Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. 14-8, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Be resolved that council receive report 2026-90 as information, and that council approve a 2.76 cost of living adjustment to non-union salaries effective January 1st, 2026, and that council adopt a hybrid compensation model for non-union management employees effective January 1st, 2027, consisting of annual cost of living adjustments applied to salary grids, with consideration given to Ontario CPI, long-term inflation trends, municipal financial conditions, and council budget discretion, annual merit progression within approved salary bands based upon documented performance evaluations, comprehensive market reviews every 5 years to ensure the salary structure remains competitive with comparable municipalities, and that this report satisfies resolution number 2025-96.
Moved by Councillor Nelson, second by Councillor Esposito.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anything to add or take away from the department?
Just this report was our new HR manager's first real deep dive report to council, so I'll let her do any questions that the council may have. We are dusted off old policies from about a year ago. It's a discussion about cost of living. And some of this goes back a lot longer. Mr. Mayor has a longer history of some of these conversations in the past. Subject to any questions that the council may have, the HR manager chime in as needed.
Okay. Madam Mayor, I can't remember, were you copied in on the resolutions, the previous resolutions were shared today?
They usually share today, yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So for the public records, then there's two resolutions where CPIs, but there are two resolutions placed that have adopted a direction to pay management salaries, and it's CPI. The history behind that is that the town used to pay the same as what was negotiated for the union employees, and went away from that and went directly to CPI. So this report doesn't reflect that. I think those were documents that were hard to find. We were able to take them up here today and provide that. So just a little bit of clarity on this report. We're probably going to have to rejig what the resolution says, because we're speaking through 10-year averages and creating a policy that doesn't exist when policies don't exist, but the resolutions do. So part of the challenge here for the operation is resolutions are in place, which are still direction, but policies I don't think were created or we can't find. And so we're trying to take those up and there, those aren't there. So here's an opportunity for council to look at some really good work done at the HR department with respect to options. And part of that work includes what we've been asking for quite a while, which is merit-based increases as well too. And there's even a hybrid model, which is kind of innovative and neat there as well too. So with that, I just want to provide that background, pass the floor to you and let you sort of take a minute.
So the hybrid compensation model would be good to adopt. I have some policies in place that couldn't find any yet. So it'd be going first the cost of living adjustment, the COLA analysis, CPI trends. So based on that, if there's already the resolution in place, that takes care of that. But the annual merit progression is based on performance-based. So we'd have annual salary performance reviews done. I'd like to have them done like once a year at the same time, and then it's status quo across the board. Everyone has them done by a certain due date, and they move within their salary band steps. The salary bands are already in place. They just move up their step progression. If they're progressing or they're exceeding or meeting expectations, they're going to move in their step band. Where if they're unacceptable and they're not moving, they may be on a PIP, or they may be being coached, they may be being worked on. So it'd be something to look at that way on how they're going to progress through the pay bands. And then the comprehensive market review, I put that every 5 years just to stay current with market inflation and where everybody is to be competitive in the market. Which is all the municipalities. Any question?
Council? Councilor Shannon?
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you. Just a question on the pay band. So if I understand correctly, you review them every 5 years. So someone technically could stay at the same rate for 5 years without an increase if they're at the top pay band?
No, they would get the COLA, like the cost of living CPI. So regardless, they will get an increase. Okay. The banding line. Yes, the whole lines of the cost of living. So they would get an increase due to cost of living.
I misunderstood the way.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
But the merit base, they may not increase in the step if they were under.
Anyone else? Couple questions from my standpoint. So, COLA, cost of living allowance. That's some arbitrary numbers to try to rationalize here a little bit. If COLA is 2%, I know what you're proposing in the hybrid model, they would be paid the 2% regardless. The performance base is just the movement inside the scale itself. Isn't that natural? Isn't that what is in place right now? Is that how the actual scale is supposed to be implemented?
It is right now, yes.
So what's the just trying to see what the difference?
It's just that they may not they may get the increase no regardless, so they may not be eligible for it. So it's based on performance. So there was no performance-based merit previous, reviews weren't being done maybe in the past, or just making it more standardized across the board.
So how were the steps being determined? How were the increases being determined for the employees?
Just the yearly increases were.
So if you had a 5-step process every year, you'd move up a step?
Yeah. So you're maxed out, and then you're just getting the
Also, the performance evaluation required to get from each step. The question is how consistent was management in implementing that? Probably very.
Which is my point. My point is that already exists. It's just not being implemented.
Yeah, so there's no policy on it.
Right.
Like, there's not anything written on how to go about it and how to issue it. Fine. So that was the administration policy for performance.
Okay, so on the hybrid model, perhaps we can consider, just for argument's sake, a true performance base, which would be the COLA amount. And the COLA amount would be less than, well, we could use COLA amount, but it can be less than what the actual COLA amount is, and the difference being made up through performance.
It's for 1 or 2%.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I did have that in mind as well. So there are some discussions to be had.
Okay, so you're going to bring back something for us to look at and consider, correct?
Yes, I have some policies drafted.
Yeah. In the resolution, I just want to make sure that what do we resolve into here in council received the report, which is good. Council approved 2.76. Let's talk about that for a moment. And then council adopt a hybrid compensation model for the meeting comes. And that this report, so you're bringing that back or are we adopting?
It's a bit of a hybrid in the sense that we need to pick a number for 2026. So
Nope. So let's get, so
the rest will come back in the hybrids.
So the second part, and that council approved 2.76. That's already covered in the policy. It's a COLA. So you just got to grab the 2025 COLA and that's the amount. It's not necessarily 2.76.
No, but it's quite close, actually. Just worked out that way.
Okay. But my point is that what we should be saying is that council apply resolution 332, 2014 for the COLA adjustment. So we'll do a minor amendment, but I'm just trying to get to the third paragraph. Am I reading this? I'll look at your guide. Someone says, well, are we adopting this right now or are we putting this off to another time to adopt?
Well, I don't see the motion to bring back. So to me, I see it as you're adopting a hybrid compensation model.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. So can we adjust that to be, have you go back with some of the feedback we've had here in the documents that came up today and repurpose that? So perhaps for an amendment, we'll need somebody to move that would be that we amend the second paragraph to say that instead of a council approve a 2.76 cost of living increase, that council approve the 2025 COLA amount in accordance with resolution 332, 2014.
What was the resolution number, Mr. Mayor?
332, 2014. And on the last paragraph that we eliminate that paragraph and replace it within that at the operation provide in the operation take the discussion in consideration and formulating a final policy to propose at the next subsequent council meeting. Right? I'm sorry, Casey, looking at you.
Yeah, I know we have my, thank you, Your Worship. We're recommending the hybrid, and we have that discussion about that.
Okay, good point. Thank you. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, good point. Councilor?
I would strongly recommend that that just for the sake of transparency, instead of just referencing the policy, if we already know what the amount would be, we should put it in.
I mean, since he needs everything out.
Yeah, well, I asked the HR manager to pull that because I figured you'd be asking that question. So, but it goes by
5, and then the approximate number was 2.1%. The 2.76 was the 5 or 10-year rolling average.
Is it 2025 COLA, the yearly COLA?
Just like yearly, yeah.
2.1? 2.1. Just 2.1. Okay, so that in accordance with resolution 332, 2014.
Yeah, and I think if we just make a minor adjustment and that council adopt, you just say that council direct staff to prepare the draft date, and then you can keep everything there.
Yep, that's what we're talking about here. But come back to Councillor Shannon on the news point. Let's get his consensus from council on whether the hybrid is something we want.
So just then first, so I'm clear, we're saying for 2026, we'll go with the 2.1, and then this will be moving forward for 2027. Okay. So we have discussed the hybrid model, but and that's what I know, Your Worship, you were leaning towards. But it's basically the same with the as the full increase in the steps. I just want to understand the differences here. So it's got the COLA and then employee merit. and the CPI. So it says this approach is widely, it's an Ontario Consumer Price Index, this scan, so it doesn't specify 10-year or 5-year in the hybrid, right?
No, that was.
It doesn't involve suggestion.
Pardon?
It doesn't involve.
Yeah, but it's okay, but it's not in the hybrid. So when it comes to the 5 or 10, I mean, what's the advantages of one or the other?
But just to help for our costs for municipal budgeting. So the 5 years, they may be a little bit higher percentages when there was years where the CPI was quite higher. So you and then the 10-year brings it a little bit more stable across the board. That's where the 2.76 over a 5 year is 3.4. So it does make it a little bit of a difference. So it helps your budgeting.
On that point, it's an interesting point you bring up. The other thing to consider here is, so we do have a policy, we do have a resolution in place. It is the annual CPI, but the annual CPI made sense then because instead of doing an average, an overall average, it reflects the actual cost of living that the employees endure during that year. And since we're adjusting every year, then you're going to be more accurate by doing an annual as opposed to an average.
I agree, and I think your worship also is specifying, the CPI. We're just talking the cost of living increases, not the construction and all of this other stuff, right? Just the basic cost of living. And I know that historically the 10-year average was 2%. So I guess when you go longer, the average ends up being fair over the longer term for the employees.
Yeah. My sense is we have a conceptual discussion to have here, to your point. Let's discuss conceptually, is it a hybrid that we're comfortable with, or do we want them just to stick with the existing policy or another approach? And once we come to the conceptual direction, we can send the operation back and clean up after what they've heard here. They have the policy for us to consider. Because part of the problem with Resolution 332, 2014 is the subsequent policy we haven't been able to get. So we need a policy. Resolution still carries, but it's not functional, not as functional without a policy. So let's have that discussion. So we'll start with you then. Conceptually speaking, on the hybrid, is that something you're comfortable with, not comfortable with?
I mean, we don't see it here. It's written in the upper part, but the 10-year, I would be okay with that as long as the progression steps are still there. And the merit piece.
So combining both the COLA and the performance-based hybrid, you're comfortable with it now?
It's the hybrid, yes.
Okay. So details we'll let them sort of that together. Right. Anybody else on the concept?
I really like this, especially the last, the comprehensive market review. This is like it's a
good step forward.
It's a very good step forward. And I also like the annual cost of living adjustments, giving the operation some latitude to look at a bunch of different factors that would impact local employees. Rather than just looking at this basket that's always manipulated every year.
Yeah, Councilor. Anything else? Councilor Bell.
When you do the annual merit progression, is it based also on multiple roles? If you were hired to do a certain role, then yet throughout the year you did multiple roles, is the evaluation based on that for, let's say, instead if you're at step 1, 2, or 5, even if you're at 5, but you're doing multiple roles, you should be compensated because your scope of work has changed. That will be part of that?
That would be part of their step band. They may change in their band if their position has dramatically changed because of elimination of their position, and we would have to look at that.
To a position to the individual.
Exactly, yeah. They've added positions to their position, their increasing responsibilities. If they're taking on more roles now in that position, their job descriptions change. So then we can look at a review of their job.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody have any heartburn with going with the hybrid model and having the operation come back with policy? We've seen none. Let's go work on the resolution then. So again, the second and that with first and that approve 7.176%. We'll replace that with and council approve a 2.1%, was it? 2.1% COLA in accordance with resolution 332, 2014.
So I have Mr. Mayor as the amendment.
And then the second, and then the last one, did you write something down for the last one?
I did not, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so the last one, then that council adopt a hybrid compensation model for non-union management employees effective January 1st, 2027, consisting of the following. just have to modify that, tweak that slightly, I think, to say that, and that council, in that council prepare a hybrid compensation model and policy, yada, 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 to be presented at the subsequent council meeting.
It's not the council preparing it, it's the staff.
Did I say council?
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. Council, I'm trying to multitask. I should try to just.
Council directs operation.
The council direct the operation to develop a hybrid compensation model. Yeah. I know that was easy to follow, Madam Clerk.
If you say so, Mr. Mayor.
I do. What do you-
Not there yet.
Again, sorry. We'll follow your lead on this one.
Okay.
I think that's what was,
Leave doesn't hurt.
it made her. If you do your evaluation, let's say on September 1st, and the individuals or the individuals has been doing multiple rules throughout the year up until that date, do they get back pay for that if it's been established that they've been doing multiple rules prior to the mayor?
It would depend on the situation. We'd have to look at it case by case, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, see if they got a difference of pay due to taking on additional responsibilities, it'd be something that would be discussed.
Okay.
It's the step movements that we're talking about are really based on your own position. If you take on more responsibilities, that's a problem to address, to make sure it doesn't get to address. So it's either acting pay or something else, and then that step movement is still based on your core home. Yeah. And if you're progressing okay in your core, or if you've done so many other jobs that you aren't progressing as much in your core because the management has asked you to do 2 or 3 other jobs, well, you're going to get step movement anyway, because take into consideration you're doing 2 or 3 jobs, but this doesn't happen, There's a little bit of scope creep here and there, but it's not, I don't think your concern is particularly valid in this step movement scenario. If there's doing more, then you need to compensate for that, but it shouldn't be overwhelming to the point where you can't do your core job. If you do, then management has a problem. Good. It's correct.
Satisfied? Hey, Madam Clerk, let's start with the resolution. Let's start with the first, right?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, and that, I'm sorry, I did get,
Be resolved that council receive reports, so that's good.
yes,
Now the next one.
yes, so I'll read the amended
Yep.
statement there. And that council approve a 2.1% cost of living adjustment to non-union salaries in accordance with resolution number 332-2014, effective January 1st, 2026.
Okay, anybody have issues with that? All right, the next one.
The next one, I'll read it in its entirety,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
And that council approve exploring a hybrid compensation model for non-union management employees effective January 1st, 2027, consisting of annual cost of living adjustments applied to salary grids with consideration given to Ontario CPI, long-term inflation trends, municipal financial conditions, and council budget discretion, annual merit progression within approved salary bands based upon documented performance evaluations, a comprehensive market reviews every 5 years to ensure the salary structure remains competitive with comparable municipalities, and that council directs staff prior to implementation to bring back a draft policy prior to formal adoption encompassing the details listed above.
Prior to formal adoption?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, prior to formal adoption.
Or should it be formal adoption? Providing formal.
The process we currently have in place is when there's a drafted policy like this evening, it's coming to council as is prior to it coming to, as a bylaw.
I should bring. Yeah. Any issues with that, council? Okay, so that's an amendment. You have the amendment moved by Councilor Reiner. Sure. Second by Councilor Esposito.
Sure.
Okay, so on the amendment, all in favor? Carried, thank you very much. It's an amendment.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and now the resolution was moved by
Uh,
Councilor Nelson, second by Councilor Esposito. All in favor? Carried, thank you very much. Good job, everybody. Well done, Ms. Wong. Thank you for the work. Appreciate it. Okay, bylaws,
Can I read the motion, Mr. Mayor?
please.
Be resolved that the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and subsequently passed this 11th day of August, 2026. Bylaw number 2026-65 to enter into an agreement with Civil Electric Incorporated. Bylaw 2026-66 to enter into an agreement of purchase and sale with C. Villeneuve Construction Company Limited. Bylaw 2026-67 to appoint a deputy treasurer for the town of Cochrane. Bylaw 2026-68 to appoint signing officers for the town of Cochrane. Bylaw 2026-69 to prescribe the conditions under which fires may be set in open air and the issuance of fire permits. And Bylaw 2026-71 to establish a healthcare recruitment reserve fund and temporary delegate authority to the CAO for physician recruitment incentives.
Okay, moved by Councilor Burnett. Second by Councilor Nelson.
Yes, Bishop.
Thank you. Calling for any public input upon first reading. Seeing none, calling for any council changes upon second reading. Seeing none upon third reading, moved by Councilor Burnett, second by Councilor Nelson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, I believe we have a motion to go into closed.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Cochrane now comes into a portion of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 7:22 p.m. in accordance with Section 239 subsection 2, Clause B and I of the Municipal Act to discuss the following: in-camera draft minutes held on July 14th, 2026. A personal matter about an identifiable individual regarding an appointment to the Cochrane Public Library. A trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. This is regarding results of RFP 2026-17, which is the supply and installation of grinder pumps for VTP pumping station. Results of RFP 2026-22, which is the Cochrane Airport pavement rehabilitation and 3rd Avenue reconstruction project.
Okay, moved by Councilor Reimer, second by Councilor Burnett. Thank you.
I have a question. So just for clarity, I will declare when we come out on the section on the grinder pumps.
Yes, Councilor.
Not now.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, be it resolved that council return to its regular council meeting at 8:09 PM and that council do now rise and report on the matters discussed. A closed session was held in accordance with section 239 subsection 2, clause B and I of the Municipal Act to discuss the following. In-camera draft minutes held on July 14th, 2026. Appointment to the Cochrane Public Library. Results of RFP 2026-17 supply and installation of grinder pumps for VTP pumping station. Results of RFP 2026-22 Cochrane Airport pavement rehabilitation and Third Avenue reconstruction project. One motion of direction was passed and closed.
Okay, moved by Councillor Koski,
Yes.
seconded by Councillor Decidio.
Yes, your worship.
All in favor? Carried, thank you. Resolutions, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there are a few resolutions stemming from closed. Can I read the first
Of
one?
course.
First resolution reads as follows, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that council approve option 1 as per report 2026-80 and proceed to enter into a contract with LUA Construction Incorporated in the amount of $141,325.30 exclusive of HST for the supply and installation of grinder pumps for the VTP pumping station. And that council authorizes the allocation of $50,000 from the following approved 2026 water and wastewater capital projects to partially fund the project. Clarifier return sludge valve replacement of $20,000 and a high lift pump number 1 replacement at the water treatment plant of $30,000. And finally, that the contract be brought forward at a subsequent council meeting for ratification.
Okay, moved by Councillor Burnett, second by Councillor Shannon Liu.
My apologies, your worship. I have to complete on this one. That's coming out of, I missed that completely.
Is the act with you?
So,
So I guess you won't second it.
Received conflict, employer.
Second by Councillor Burnett.
Yes, your worship.
Thank you.
I wouldn't go far.
I'll give it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried, thank you very much. So you might call Councillor Shannon Liu.
Give me steps.
Okay, next resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that council approve option 1 in report 2026-89 and proceed to enter into a contract with Villeneuve Construction Limited in the amount of $249,711.55, excluding of HST, for the completion of the Cochrane Airport runway pavement rehabilitation project. And that council authorizes the required project funding to be allocated from the airport reserve. And finally, that the contract be brought forward at a subsequent council meeting for ratification.
Moved by Councillor Koski,
Yes.
second by Councillor Decidio.
Yes,
You got it. All in favor? Carried, thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, so at this point, that's the second closed meeting for council to have.
Okay, so for the public record, council is going to go into a closed session discussion with the CAO and the CAO alone to have some personnel discussions. And the reason why it's been handled this way was to allow for the function of the public agenda to be completed and for folks to depart for the evening and allow council and the CAO to finalize the agenda for the evening. Madam Clerk?
Would you like me to read the motion to go into close, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
Be it resolved that council of the corporation of the town of Cochrane now comes into a portion of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 8:13 PM. In accordance with section 239 subsection 2 clause B of the Municipal Act to discuss the following. Personal matter about an identifiable individual regarding staff matters.
Okay, moved by Councillor Nelson,
Yes, Richard.
second by Councillor Decidio.
yes.
All in favor?